Nearly, and I mean nearly, a full slate of Major League Baseball on this Monday to start off a new week. We have 14 games. That's 28 teams, which means 2 get the day off. That's the Yankees and the Twins about to start their midweek series tomorrow. But a big slate then, of course, on this Monday. We start with a divisional duel in Baltimore between the Orioles and the Blue Jays. Jose Barrios on one side gets the nod for Toronto. The ace for the O's on the other. That's Corbin Burns, as the Orioles are booked as a minus 178 home money line favorite inside Camden Yards. Total at 7.5 that features this good pitching performance. What do you like today in Baltimore?
Probably trends a little bit towards the under here, and also take a look in Baltimore, 72 degrees with a 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing out to left field. It's a little bit warmer circumstances than we've been looking at here in the mid-Atlantic region over the past couple days. But if we're lining these pitchers up, last time we saw Jose Barrios coming into this baseball game, what was the factor? One of the best pitchers in baseball ERA-wise. The Phillies slapped them around a little bit, so looking for a bounce back in this environment. If we are lining this game up, though, Barrios does have some pretty good numbers. ISO power numbers, 154 combined. Weighted on base percentage of 307. That's really good. But if we go to the other side and say, how can we find some runs here for that Toronto lineup? Well, good luck on that with Corbin Burns. A 132 ISO and a 256, weighted on base percentage through 187 batters. Love the weather conditions. Hitter's ballpark. But these two pitchers tell me we could be looking at one of those 3-2, 4-3 type games, which would keep this one to the under here. But I would give a lean, obviously, towards the home team with Baltimore. Overall, the better pitcher here and the better lineup certainly resides in Baltimore.
Another divisional duel tonight inside Fenway Park between the Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays. Minus 116 in favor of Boston, who has won 2 straight, entering Tampa, of course, losing its weekend set at home against the New York Yankees. 8.5 is the over-under tonight in Fenway. And let me highlight what Cutter Crawford has done this year. The starter on the bump today for the Sox. He is 2-1 this season with a 1.75 ERA. That's 5th best in all of MLB. He has been outstanding at the top of that starting rotation for Boston. I would continue to expect the same today against Tampa.
Yeah, and take a look at this again. 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left field at Fenway. That's usually a disaster here. 61 degrees, so balmy, let's just say, for Boston tonight. But if we're looking at the numbers, Zach Eflin, right-handed pitcher on the season, 200 total batters, Ben, he has faced. If we just take a look at his combined ISO power number, 170, which is right around average, but a 305 weighted on base percentage, he's been doing fairly well. But let's take a look at the left-handed batters this season, who you figure would be doing damage against a right-handed pitcher. They have not, them. An 0.96 ISO and a 220 weighted on base percentage again. So where you'd want to put the focus of this lineup here is on right-handed batters. And Eflin hasn't handled them all that well. A 225 ISO power number and a 367 weighted on base percentage. But here's the issue. A lot of lefties will be in that lineup, which rightfully so. You're going to play the odds. More left-handed batters against a right-handed pitcher usually pays dividends. But last year, Eflin was phenomenal against lefties. This year, phenomenal again. Yeah. Only 3 right-handed batters in the lineup anticipated tonight for the Red Sox. And if we look at their weighted on base percentages against right-handed pitchers, Ben, take a look at this. Tyler O'Neill, 242. Vaughn Grissom, 105. Cedane Rafaela, a 271. So things aren't lining up here, even though this is a hitter's ballpark and the ball should be traveling. And then you get to the point where Cutter Crawford has been sensational with his ISO and his weighted on base percentage combined between lefty and righty batters. Technically, it does play to an under because the matchups come in handy. Yeah. I don't know, maybe slight lean to the Boston Red Sox, but again, I would probably take the under, as much as I hate to say it in this ball club.
Yeah, one of the lower totals on the board tonight is in our final game of the night out in Seattle, or one of our final games, I should say, out in the Pacific Northwest. In fact, DRS, no totals higher than 9 today, and this is our lowest at 7 between the Royals and the Mariners out in Seattle. George Kirby on the bump for the M's. They're a home favorite, minus 154. Brady Singer on the other side for KC. The Royals were out in Anaheim this weekend. They won 3 of 4 against the Halos. Now a road underdog tonight up in Seattle.
Yeah, it does play towards the under. And how about tonight? You got 5 games that are going to start at 9:38 Eastern or later, which is a rarity here. A lot of these West Coast teams that are playing at home. Brady Singer has been very good here on the mound for the Kansas City Royals. 182 batters he's faced. Take a look at this. K rate around 25%. Walk rate under 10%. ISO power number 152 and a weighted on base percentage of 270. Not a great looking lineup for the Seattle Mariners just yet on this season, but Josh Rojas out of that leadoff hole has been a bright spot. 79 at bats he's had against right-handed pitching. Take a look at this. 239 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 459. Rolling it over to George Kirby on the mound, expected to be there for the Mariners. He's been decent this year. ISO at 179, slightly elevated, but a weighted on base percentage of 287. His walk rate, Ben, under 3%. His K rate is 25% or higher. There are a couple bats in the lineup which are intriguing here for the Royals. Our guy Vinny P has been pasting right-handed pitching with a 254 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 371. But even better is Salvador Perez, a 274 ISO and a 414 weighted on base percentage. The numbers technically don't line up for either one of those guys because I like that pitching matchup to go hand in hand with the hitting matchup. So I'll probably stay away from this ball game, but it is a low number for a reason. That's a true pitcher's ballpark with 2 pitchers coming in with decent form against some questionable lineups, to say the least.
Selvey has the best price to record in RBI tonight at plus 150. Our guy, Vinny P. Vinny Pasquantino, the Pasquatch after a day off yesterday on a Sunday in Anaheim, plus 165 to record a ribby. An uncharacteristically poor weekend for both the Rangers and the Guardians, playing 2 of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. Texas got swept by the Rockies. The Guardians lost 3 of 4 against the White Sox. It's a virtual pick'em today. Minus 112 moneyline price for Texas as they are at home in Arlington. Virtual pick'em. Who gets a dub?
Yeah, by the way, Michael Lorenzen really struggling with right-handed batters. So immediately you take a look at that Cleveland lineup and say to yourself, why do we need all these left-handed batters in the lineup? Because Lorenzen has been sensational against lefties. So one of those where you're probably going to get maybe one, and that's the leadoff guy, Tyler Freeman. The rest of those guys, switch hitters or lefties. That's a shame we're going to waste it on that side. Quickly on the other side, though, Tanner Bybee, 263 ISO, weighted on base percentage of 411 versus lefties. You take a look at the lineup tonight, Josh H. Smith, 250 ISO power number. Evan Carter, 274 ISO power number. Those 2 lefties, that's where your RBI shots should come from tonight here for the lineup for the Texas Rangers.
Plenty of RBI shots continue to come your way as we continue our preview of this Major League Baseball Monday slate next. Tonight in Atlanta, it's another outing for Shota Imanaga starting for the Chicago Cubs as the Cubbies head to the ATL as an underdog to start off this midweek set against the Braves. Again, Shota Imanaga on the bump when he has started a game for Chicago. They have not lost so far this year, and yet Atlanta nearly $1.50 favorite, minus 146 in favor of the Braves, who have often been booked as a favorite this year. Over under 7.5. DRS, how do you line this one up in the ATL?
It's not who do you love, but it's who do you trust tonight in this game. Why? Because take a look at Imanaga, the left-handed pitcher on the mound here for the Cubs. My goodness, man.
Yeah.
An 0.71 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 210 against 160 batters. Walk percentage, he stays 42 lefties, Ben, hasn't given up a free pass here. You take a look at his K percentage, which is even, 26% to lefties, 27% to right-handed batters. But also, you look at that Braves lineup against left-handed pitching this season, it's been really good. But I preface this by saying it. In Atlanta tonight, only 64 degrees. Rain is in the forecast. Double-digit winds blowing in. So that might help Imanaga here on the mound. Typically like Wrigley, where do you want the wind blowing in? Obviously blowing in as opposed to blowing out. But let's look at that Braves lineup here, 1 through 6 with their weighted on base percentages against left-handed pitching in 2024. 399, 368, 529, 323, 419, and 771. That 771, by the way, is Travis d'Arnaud, who's absolutely exploding the baseball against left-handed pitching. So that's why I say, who do you trust here? Is it that Braves lineup, or are you going to take a look at that first time through against Imanaga and give him the benefit of the doubt going up against the Braves? Let's flip it over to the other side. Ronaldo Lopez. I've talked about this guy multiple times already this season. One of my favorite fade pitchers because he typically gives up fly ball after fly ball after fly ball. He's been quality this year for the Atlanta Braves. A 110 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 271. However, who do you trust in the lineup here for the Cubs? Look at the first 3 batters, Tauchman, Suzuki, and Bellinger. Weighted on base percentages, 370, 609, and 470 against right-handed pitching. Something has to give, but again, two of these lineups here, who I like, quite frankly, going up against these pitchers with the wind blowing in cooler conditions, probably does play to an under. It really does.
When you look at Reynaldo Lopez, he's only made 6 starts this year. He's got a 2-1 record and a 1.53 ERA.
Yeah.
Last week, we had the conversation about Shota Imanaga not being one of the leaders in MLB in terms of ERA, despite being sub-1, because he hadn't hit the minimum inning requirement yet. Same story for Lopez right now, but he would have one of the 5 best ERAs in the bigs if and when he does. Imanaga now over 1, but a 1.08 ERA, 5-0 this year, has made 7 starts for Chicago in his debut season in Major League Baseball, and the Cubs have won every one. I'm going to sprinkle on that money line for the Cubbies tonight. The New York Mets walking it off last night, Sunday Night Baseball, to avoid the sweep against Atlanta, courtesy of a 2-run bomb in the home half of the 9th from Brandon Nimmo. The Mets remain at home, and they get the best team in baseball at this moment, the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phils DRS a -120 road moneyline favorite at Citi Field in Flushing today.
Yeah, and by the way, if we're looking at the first 5, I don't have the numbers up at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You probably should be digging on a first 5 under. Why is that? Christopher Sanchez, left-handed pitcher, has been great this year for the Phillies. An .076 combined ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage of only .299. That is phenomenal. Now, let's take a look at that Mets lineup and why we do think Sanchez can have a very good performance. If we're looking at the weighted on base percentage of all 9 batters expected to be in the lineup tonight, keep in mind, 320 to 325. That's your Major League Baseball average for a weighted on base percentage for a hitter. Take a look at the lineup anticipated tonight. Taylor, 167. Marte, 271. Lindor, 281. Alonso, 193. Martinez, 252. McNeil, 281. Bader, 152. Batty, 107. And Nito, 057. Not a single plus batter in that lineup tonight against left-handed pitching. Take a look at the Phillies, though. A lot of moving parts. Expected to get back JT Realmuto tonight. Schwarber not expected to be in the lineup, and you're already down Trey Turner. So a lot of these guys are a little bit questionable. And also a left-handed pitcher, Minaya, who's been very good this year. 062 ISO percentage against him and a weighted on base percentage of 292. That's really good. First 5 under is the way to go. And also conditions tonight, that's 60 degrees. Wind is blowing out to left, but this focuses me more on the pitchers than it does the hitters, Ben.
4.5 is that first 5 total, by the way, and the under does have the hefty juice at -152, but Donnie is laying out the reasons why. Another divisional duel, a central focus in the National League, -142 in favor of Milwaukee. The Brew Crew at home hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates. Milwaukee nearly swept the Cardinals, but the Redbirds finally snapping a 7-game skid against Milwaukee yesterday.